All righty, everybody. Welcome back to the Talking Philly Sports with Matty B program here on the Edge of Philly Sports with your boy Matty B, joining you live and direct from my bat cave. That's right, the Matty B cave, as I do every Monday night around this time, around this target, to bring you the best in my quality, in my version of Philadelphia sports. And boy, oh boy, things never a dull moment around here. I say that every week, but I'm validated by that because all the stuff that's going on every week. Got a whole bunch to get into tonight. Eagle free agency is off and running. Big time moves here by the Birds. Saquon Barkley, the former Penn State alumni, is now not alumni, I guess. Is it alum or alumni? Alumni would be a group of people. Alum would be a person. Anyway, he is an Eagle. Howie Roseman kind of going outside of his norm, offering a large, extensive, multiple-year contract to a aging running back who's got spectacular upside. He is definitely an NFL superstar when healthy, and that is the big caveat, when healthy. The Eagles, I guess, are banking on him to be when healthy, at least for the next 3 years. They also were moving and grooving with a couple other moves. We'll talk about that extensively towards the middle part of this show. We got some Philly stuff to get into today as we're getting that much closer, one more day closer to the start of the regular season. And our big story of the night are the Philadelphia Flyers. That's right. That's what I'm talking about. It is never a bad night when I can say the big topic on the show is a hockey-related topic. I am a hockey guy. Tonight we got a lot to talk about. The Flyers, I have not been able to digest or regurgitate. I've digested it. I haven't regurgitated the trade deadline comings and goings by the Flyers and also the rest of the teams around the NHL, winners and losers, if you will. We're going to get into that. We're going to get into the Flyers at the trade deadline. We're also going to get into the Flyers at this particular junction in the season because there's some things, noteworthy things to talk about, and I can't do it alone. So joining me here in about 5 minutes or so, Bill Matz. That's right, my main man, Bill Matz, from the PHLY Flyers pre, post, and daily podcast show will be joining me, making his third or fourth time return back to the show. So I figured I might as well get an expert to talk to me about hockey because I definitely need one. But we're going to get into the trade deadline haps with the Flyers, the trade deadline haps with the NHL, and, of course, the notorious John Tortorella 2-game suspension that occurred on Saturday night against the Tampa Bay Lightning. And I guess that was a hockey game that the Flyers played on Saturday, losing 7-0. Tortorella thrown out of the game on a game misconduct and then given a 2-game suspension. There's been a lot of backlash, and I want to save it all for Bill because I want to hear what his take on that is. But there's been some backlash over the suspension. And I think you people out there are going to be surprised where I come out on this because it's an interesting situation when you have officials, right? Officials, umpires, referees, whatever you call them, are, the bane of sports fans' existence. But then again, they're also our best friend. It's almost like a what have you done for me lately type of relationship that we have with officials. But guess what, folks? They're a necessary evil because without them, you're not having a game. Without them, we're not having a season. Without them, you're not having great things to talk about. And they are charged with doing the best they possibly can. They are charged with the responsibility of upholding the rules of the game that they're officiating, regardless of whether or not you agree with them, because they're not for you to agree or disagree, because you're not in the NHL. You're not part of the NHL Players Association that argued over and compromised to some of these rules. You're not part of that. You're part of the byproduct. You're part of the paying public. So if you're upset with an official, if you're upset with a referee, if you're upset with an umpire, don't take it out on them. Take it out on the league. Take it out on the Players Association because they're the ones responsible for the rules that these people are out there enforcing. And it burns my biscuits, man. It does. It burns my biscuits to hear the venom being kind of spewed at officials for going out there and doing the best they can. I don't know if any of you out there have ever tried to officiate an NHL hockey game. I haven't. It's very fast. I know people who have. I am a hockey official from the high school varsity level down, and that game's fast. I can't imagine what it's like up there at the NHL level. But the men and women who are charged with that job are qualified to be there. They didn't show up to the arena and say, you know what, today I want to be a linesman, or today I want to be a ref. No, it doesn't work like that. There's years and years and years of training and evaluations and recruiting involved in getting your opportunity to help out there on an NHL playing surface. They were all qualified, and they are all qualified to do that job. Now, whether or not they do it to your liking is not relevant at all. It's not relevant in this case at all. It's their job to do. Like it or lump it. It is what it is. Now, of course, the counter argument is, well, you got to do the right job. You got to make the right calls, and I 100% agree. But again, have you ever tried to officiate a hockey game? Have you ever got down there on the ice? You don't have the benefit of 18 different camera angles. You don't have the benefit of instant replay. You got to make a split decision at a split second in time and pray to God that you had the right call or what you saw was the right thing and live with it. I say you pat the umps and the refs on the back for doing the best they can. And we're going to get into all that with Bill because I'm interested to see where he comes out on that. And we're going to talk about the Flyers going forward as they are in very treacherous waters these days. If you guys looked at the standings, the New York Islanders are coming up like gangbusters on the Flyers right now. And I mentioned this on the Flyer postgame the other night. The Islanders will play tonight against the Kings, and the Flyers won't step back on the ice till tomorrow. So they could step back up on the ice tied right now with the Islanders if the Islanders win tonight. They went out and handled their business against Anaheim last night, so they're going to go back-to-back tonight out there on the coast. But we're going to get into that with Bill momentarily. But before we do, we got to do some housekeeping here on the program. We're going to start off as we do every week, and that, of course, is your day in Philadelphia sports history, and I go all the way back to the day, March 11th, 1947. Is that the day? Is that what it is, 47? Yeah, 47. And I wasn't there. Contrary to popular belief, I was not there. But today, on March 11th, 1947, the Philadelphia Phillies played their first ever spring training game in Clearwater. That's right. Today was the day that the tradition began. The Tiki Hut probably wasn't there then, but they arrived in Clearwater for their very first spring training game. That was their new home and has been their home ever since. And they lost 13-1 to the Detroit Tigers on this day to kick off their spring alliance with the good folks down there in Clearwater, Florida. About 2,000 people or 1,200 people showed up to watch that thing as the Phillies lost 2-1, or not 2-1, but 13-1 at the hands of the Detroit Tigers today. Their debut in Clearwater for the Phillies spring training facility, and that day in Philadelphia.
All right, guys, it's time to talk about
in Philadelphia sports history. I'm sorry about that. I'm going to get rid of those. They confuse me. But your day in Philadelphia sports history has been brought to you by the good folks over at Sherry's Tickets. That's right. For great prices, no hidden fees on sports, concerts, and theater venues. Head over to www.sherrytickets.com. Family owned and operated since 1946. Save! That's right. Save an additional 10% when you enter the promo code EOP10. That's Sherry Tickets Town at sherrytickets.com. All right, you heard me kind of rant on about this, and let's get right to the main course. We're going to skip the appetizer. We're going to skip the soup. We're going to skip the salad. We're going to skip the relish tray. You know, I got refinement and etiquette. I know about relish trays, and we're going to skip the sorbet, and we're going to get right to the entree. Please help me welcome him back to the show. My own personal favorite director of fun and games from the PHLY Flyers pre and post game and podcast, Mr. Bill Matz. Bill, welcome back.
Oh, thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
It is my honor for you to be back here, Bill. We talked last time right on the heels of the Cutter Gauthier trade, and I said we got to get back together at the trade deadline. And, well, the trade deadline has come and gone, and here we are, Bill. But before I dive into the trade deadline, because the Flyers, they decided to kind of throw a wrench in the works, because there's actually some hockey to talk about before we get into the trade stuff. We're going to circle back to the trade stuff. But, Bill, on Thursday night, the Flyers went down to Florida. In South Beach, in Miami, with the mystique that is, the trap for so many teams. And they went out and played probably one of their most technically sound hockey games that I've ever seen in route to a 2-1 victory over the NHL best Florida Panthers. Then they follow that up, Bill, on Saturday night with, I don't even know what you call that, but it was a 7-0 loss to the Lightning. Bill, how can you go from 2-1 winners over the Panthers, to 7-0 losers over the Lightning. Don't tell me Igor Zamula is the reason why the Flyers lost 7-0 to the Lightning.
I wouldn't say it's so much that. I mean, they just didn't have it. For whatever reason, they weren't ready to go. The team flat out stunk. They gave up a goal. It was, I think, a minute 49 into the game, and it never looked back. But it was 4-0 after 10 and a half minutes. But they did go into the game with 5 defensemen. They've played a lot of the season with 7, 6 typically the minimum. And 3 of those defensemen are 37-year-old Mark Stahl, 36-year-old Eric Johnson in his Flyers debut. And it was just, and Ronnie Attard, who is 8th or 9th on the depth chart at this point. And then Sanheim gets banged up in the game. Cam York got banged up against Florida. He was able to come back, but yeah, it was just a bad game. Now they need to bounce back, and they need to bounce back fast. They have a nice little warm-up game against San Jose, and then they get into, I think, 7 straight against playoff teams. It's going to be rough, but hopefully it was just one bad night instead of the beginning of what looks like, I mean, if that's the beginning of something, it's going to be a miserable last month of the season.
And we'll get into that. But, Bill, I don't think the Flyers can afford to take any game off. I don't think they need to overlook. I mean, don't forget, San Jose is the team that they got their first win against us way back in November. So, but we'll get to that here in a second. But let's backtrack. Saturday morning or Saturday afternoon, I don't know the timeline, but Zamula's sick. They can't get Jennings back down from Philly. Now, I know there was a lot of rain in the Philadelphia area on Saturday, but you're telling me that a National Hockey League team with the billions of dollars they have can't get a guy from southeastern PA down to Central Florida by a 7:00 night game in the same time zone? Bill, I don't understand why they willingly went into this game down a defenseman when they were already down so many defensemen to begin with.
They sent Jennings back because he had to go back to meet some salary cap constraints with the coming out of the deadline, and so he's eligible if the Phantoms make the playoffs to play in the Calder Cup playoffs. They tried to bring him back. There were delays. I don't know what the exact problem were. There was bad weather, but they tried to bring him back. They couldn't get him back. You can't make the planes fly.
I don't know. I think you can, Bill. When you have that much money, you make anything happen, man. Come on. You got to think outside of the box, Bill.
Do you think they wanted to be with 5 defensemen, like against Tampa Bay? Like, do you think that was the goal?
I don't know. I honestly don't.
I'm going to tell you it wasn't. I'm going to tell you it wasn't.
Well, with that aside, and I get it, logistics kind of hamper things at times. But when you look at the other aspect, you mentioned the players that they had available. Now, you didn't mention Gritty because he probably could have been used as a big body in front at least. But I don't know. I would have, and I'm sure they moved hell and high water to try to get him there. It was just I don't know. I just don't see how you get caught short like that, as you mentioned, against a quality opponent and a game where the Flyers really, Bill, if they would have come out and say somehow won this game, I mean, they would have made believers out of a lot of people to go down to Florida and sweep that.
They absolutely would have. It just wasn't in the cards. You know, they are, regardless of whether Jennings plays or not, 4 of their top 6 defensemen were not in the game. They traded Sean Walker, Nick Seeler's hurt, Rasmus Ristolainen's hurt, Jamie Drysdale is hurt. Jennings probably wouldn't make a huge difference there. They just played a very bad game on Saturday against a team that badly needed to win. Tampa Bay got called out by their coach after they got killed by Calgary a couple nights before, and they needed to show that they had something as well. There are 2 teams that play.
And that something was immense. And as you mentioned, the game became very uncompetitive very quickly. I believe 11 minutes into the game, they're down 4-0. They've already kind of caused a few very bad penalties. You could see the frustration starting to build on their side. You can see the frustration building on their head coach. And then it all kind of erupted, Bill, on a very questionable tripping call, which if you slow it down and you take a look at it in real time or in slow-mo time, yeah, it wasn't tripping. It was 2 skates coming together, coincidental contact, but it was called a trip. That sent Tortorella into a rage. And I guess it was a profanity-laced rage. He received not only a unsportsmanlike conduct penalty for the actual rage, and then I guess he didn't stop, kept going and going, got the game misconduct, got ejected, and then later on we find out that he's been suspended for 2 games and fined $50,000. And Bill, there's been a lot of backlash at the officials over this and at the league over this. I've heard everything from the league doesn't like the Flyers, that we have crooked officials in the NHL, like this is the WWF or something like that. Bill, I want your take on it, and I haven't heard your take. What is your take on not only the ejection of John Tortorella, but then the subsequent suspension?
I think the suspension is absolutely asinine. He got kicked out halfway through the first period. So this is essentially a 3-game suspension because the officials in the game blew 3 calls. Like, this is a game with playoff implications. These are 2 teams that could very well be fighting for the final playoff spot in the Eastern Conference. They made up a penalty against Ronnie Attard and didn't blow the whistle after the Flyers touched the puck, giving them basically 3 minutes of power play time. And then they call a second penalty on Ronnie Attard for a trip that never happened. And then Garnet Hathaway gets a 10-minute misconduct for shoving a guy, something that happens literally every time a goalie freezes the puck in this league. And then John Tortorella lost his mind. Should he leave the bench when he's ejected? Yeah, I guess that's the rule. The idea of a 3-game suspension just shows that the officials in this league have very little accountability, and they don't have the skin to deal with. They don't have the thick enough skin to deal with the criticism. That's why we never get to hear from them. That's why we don't get explanations of their calls. At the end of this game, forget explaining us why they made up 3 penalties to start the game. At the end of the game, they just stopped announcing penalties. The broadcast, JJ and Boost are just like, we don't know what the calls are because the refs aren't telling us anymore. They just decided we're done doing our jobs tonight.
So, Bill, I'm not. Again, I wasn't on the ice, so and I am a hockey official, so I am going to take a little bit of a different point here. I understand the frustration when it comes to a call or multiple calls that are not necessarily seen, or even maybe are penalties or not penalties. I get that. I get the frustration there. But what I want to try to make clear, and I think that what is being lost here, is it wasn't the referees that suspended Tortorella. It was the rule that he was thrown out under that got him suspended. The rule was if any player, coach, team manager, anybody involved in this team in the game on the bench, non-player wise, is given a game misconduct for profanity-laced insults, racial slurs, any of that the official team deems that that's a game misconduct, then that is covered under supplementary discipline, and it comes with an automatic 2-game suspension. Now, this is a rule in the rule book by the league, not by the refs. Both the Players Association and the league haggle over these rules every year, and they agree to them. So they were following the rules. Now, whether or not he warranted being thrown out of the game, I wasn't down on the ice. You're right. There's a lot of stuff going on down there. There's a fine line these players walk. There's F this, F that, F you, all game long. But there's that line you can't cross. Don't know what he said. I don't know the reason around it, but he obviously crossed the line up to that official's judgment. And so he was properly adjudicated, Bill. So I have a problem with saying that it was an asinine decision. It was a rule that was followed.
That's why there needs to be some sort of explanation here. Why was he ejected? Nobody knows that. If he crossed some sort of line with some sort of slur of okay, maybe then you have to suspend him. But to me and to everybody who watched the game, it looks like he was kicked out because those officials couldn't deal with the criticism of them doing their jobs poorly. They're covering for themselves. And then he gets fined $50,000 and suspended 2 games. The Flyers are further punished because the officials are incompetent. You saw their incompetence on the ice when an official puts his hand up in front of the net, is looking at the puck, because that's the only thing you look at in front of the net. He calls a penalty that never happened. He's staring at the puck. The Flyers touch it, and he does not blow the whistle. Right there, you see that the ref is bad at his job. And now they're covering for that by kicking him out of the game rather than explaining to him, hey, man, sorry, we missed one. We fucked up. Like, if you just say that, then it's
But that's
fine.
irrelevant. But Bill, you don't know that conversation did not happen. I don't know if it did either. Now, he was given the initial penalty was unsportsmanlike conduct. It's a bench minor. He then looks like he just didn't stop. Now, what a ref's going to do is go over there and be like, John, are you done? Are you done? Don't cross the line. You crossed it. There you go. There's the game misconduct. Now you're out. That's what you've been thrown out for. That is what you went. You're out. And under supplementary discipline, that's what covers that. That's probably why he was thrown out of the game, because he wouldn't let it go. After a while, Bill, the game was getting out of control for both sides. right? The refs sense that too. And now I'm not saying what they did was try to tamp that down or anything. I'm not. This got completely out of control. But when you have a coach going crazy on the bench, hurling whatever he was hurling, and I don't know what it was, you got to defend yourself as a ref too. You got to basically show these coaches, listen, you're not in charge of the game. I am. Now, granted, you made bad calls. I'm not going to sit here and defend their calls because that tripping, that was certainly not a penalty. All right. And I would have given the embellishment penalty on, was it LaPointe on the Lightning who went down? I would have given the penalty to the Tampa Bay Lightning player for that because it was not tripping. I'll get you there. I understand that. But that does not forgive John Tortorella for losing his mind and then being properly dealt with. So that's my point here. Everybody's all up in arms. Oh, the NHL's crazy. They're crooked. The refs are out to get us. No, the refs did the appropriate thing then. What led up to that is correct. That's up to interpretation.
I just think you have to, if you know you missed the call, which is obvious because the story now is that it was a rookie referee who made the mistakes, and then Wes McCauley, the Joe West of the NHL, who makes it all about him. Make no mistake about it. If this was not a night on which John Tortorella was honored for 20 years of the championship in Tampa Bay, he does not get kicked out of this game. This was Wes McCauley. This was Wes McCauley saying, I'm in charge. This is my game. Get out of here. Because Bill, he doesn't want to be criticized.
You're a wrestling fan, right? Who was that referee back in the day that flipped over and became the bad guy? You remember what I'm talking about? You got to. Oh, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
That's not what's happening here, Bill. I disagree with that. But either way, it does not admonish the officials for not doing their job the best possible way. And it certainly doesn't admonish them for stop calling penalties at a certain point in the game, nor does it admonish the league from issuing a further response about why this has happened. And now I'm sure that response was issued to the Flyers. Now, whether or not the Flyers are going to share that or if that's public knowledge, I'm not aware, but I know the league had to have communicated why Tortorella was suspended. And it's very simple. He violated the rule under the supplementary district, I believe it's 40-6 in the NHL rulebook that states very clearly you're suspended for 2 games and you're subject to further discipline action by the commissioner. Now, that was obviously what the 50K was. So again, I get everybody's being upset, but it's not, Bill. I'm an ump in baseball, college and below, and I am a ref in hockey, or I'm a linesman. I haven't refed yet, but I'm a linesman where we do 2-man from high school varsity down to the lowest of levels of youth. And I've dealt with situations similar to nothing like the NHL, of course, but there's a line. If a coach tells me to go F myself, okay, we got you, coach, you're pissed. But if he crosses that line, then we got a problem and I got to deal with it. And that's what happened here tonight. What led to the problem, you're right, does not admonish the refs.
From what I have seen, every angle, there was no initial explanation. And when the referee refuses, skates to the other side of the ice, and refuses any sort of explanation, the coach gets to say whatever he wants, and the refs have to eat it. They chose not to because they think they're bigger than the game.
Well, they made the announcement that he got in a game misconduct. That's enough to know that you've been thrown out. That is the trigger to being ejected. That is what that is. So I don't know if that was probably after he left, right? That was after he finally did leave the bench. You're right. I don't know. Good point. All right, Bill, we're not going to agree to this because I will defend the Stripes to the end on this one. But let's move on to actual hockey. The Flyers were active in the trade deadline. A couple things happened. I want to get your take on it. Then I also want to get your winners and losers take around the NHL real quick in our time here. But heading into the trade deadline, names like Sean Walker, Nick Seeler, and Scott Lawton kind of were the names that we were thinking that all these NHL teams were interested in. Now, maybe I missed the Morgan Frost, Cam Atkinson memos. I don't know if anyone was really interested in those guys, but whatever. The Flyers then kind of took some of the mystery away by signing Nick Seeler to that 4-year. I'm going to get your take on that contract here in a second, but leading up to that, Bill, I want to get your opinion on this. I saw a couple of interviews, one with Sean Walker when asked about being traded or wanting to stay. He basically said something, and I'm paraphrasing, I'll let my agent kind of handle that. That's kind of his thing. And then I heard Nick Seeler kind of ask the same question, and he was like, no, I want to be a Flyer. I want to be here. This is where I want to be. My mind was made up of who was getting moved at that particular moment in time and who wasn't. So I want to get your take on that. First, the Seeler deal. How do you think about, or how do you feel about it?
Sealer deal, I like the creativity Danny uses there. Now 4 years probably a little too long, but to get the average annual value down below $3 million, he gives him a 4th year, and there's a no trade clause in the last 2 seasons. If he is a guy they think needs to be here because of, one, what he brings on the ice. Like, he has developed into a number 4 defenseman on a team that is in a playoff spot through 65 games. That means he's become pretty good. I know his pedigree is, a few years ago it looked like he was going to be out of the NHL, but he's come a long way. He's been a good player for them this year. On top of the leadership and all the intangibles he brings, I think it's a good deal. I think it's a fair deal for both sides. The Sean Walker end of it, I think they always kind of telegraphed that Nick Sealer was going to be here. And Sean Walker was, he looks like he became something with the Flyers. He was also a throw-in back in the offseason just so we could get a first-round pick for Ivan Provorov. The Kings had to dump some salary, and that's what happened. We end up with Sean Walker. They turned that into a first-round pick. That was the goal of this trade deadline, and Sean Walker would be insane not to want to hit the unrestricted free agent market. He's a right-handed defenseman coming off a career year, and he's like, this is it. This is it for him. He's almost 30 years old. This is his big chance to finally cash in as an NHL player. He'd be nuts not to try to get a bidding war going on July 1st.
Absolutely. And let's talk about a little bit more of the trade, because the Flyers, there was a couple other pieces going on. Ryan Johansson, who, when I heard that name, I was like, is that the Ryan Johansson that's had a past with the coach? They didn't get along in Columbus. The Ryan Johansson is coming off major leg surgery a couple of years ago. The aging Ryan Johansson, along with the first round top 10 protected 2025 first round draft pick. And of course, if somehow the Colorado Avalanche fall off a cliff, Bill, next year and end up picking in the top 10, Flyers will have to wait till 2026, which will be unprotected. I don't think that's going to happen, Bill. I'm pretty sure it's going to be a first round pick next year. But Ryan Johansson, Bill, was this just a move to? I mean, I know I've read some things since then, but why would Briere pull the trigger? Was this like you're taking the first round? If I'm giving you a first round pick, Danny B, you're taking this guy too. Is that kind of how this thing went down, you think?
Yeah, I think it's just this, basically the same thing as the 3-team Ivan Provorov trade, where they had a price set in their mind, and to get that price, they had to make some other things work. And Ryan Johansson, he has 50% retained. Nashville dumped him to Colorado. Yep. Now Colorado dumped him and immediately replaced him with Casey Middlestat. And now the Flyers waived him immediately. It's not as if the Flyers are, we don't really want him, but maybe he has. The Flyers put him on waivers, and for $4 million, 31 teams could have had him. None of them bit. It just seems as if Ryan Johansson has fallen out of favor in the league.
And you know what? Obviously, the player has since reported to Lehigh. And now the question goes, with all the nonsense that surrounded him, and then, of course, there's the ties in with the agent and Cutter Gauthier and his agent. There's a tie there. There's a lot of venom going on, I guess. Would the Flyers be better set here, Bill? Because he's got another year left on his contract. It's not like he's a rental. He's here next year under contract. Would the Flyers be better served sitting him the rest of the year and then buying him out, sitting him to make sure he does not get hurt, because you can't cut a hurt player? So are the Flyers better off? Hey, listen, dude, keep your cell phone on. Give you a call.
Yeah, I think that might be the plan. I want to see if he actually ends up playing for Ian LePerriere at Lehigh Valley. If he's if he fell out of favor in the Nashville locker room, and the Colorado players seem to have turned on him based on reports out of Denver, it maybe the best thing to do is not have him in this group. And you're right, you can't buy him out if he gets hurt. And if I'm him, well, I want all that money. Guess what? My knee's going to hurt real bad. Oh, yeah, man. Doesn't feel right. Really? Does not feel right. So maybe the best thing to do is hold him out.
I think it might be, especially if the Flyers, because right now we would be so you're right. He's not going to take a $3 million. He's not going to elect for free agency if he cleared waivers. Why would you do that? I'm not going to take half my salary or whatever, 30% left. The hell with it. I'm going to go hang out in the AHL. I won't play because I'm a cancer, and maybe I'll get bought out for more money and become a UFA. Yeah, it's an interesting situation, and obviously I think you're right. It was more of you'll take the first round pick, Danny B, if you take Johansson. So Then the Flyers got kind of active in the brokering business with the Vegas Golden Knights and the Calgary Flames. They ended up getting a 5th-round pick in the brokerage there with those two teams as they were conducting a trade. Obviously, Bill, the Sean Walker trade and now this trade are more kind of looking like moves for the future. So you can kind of classify them as sell moves for the Flyers. Now, what do you come out on that? I mean, obviously, when you're picking up a 1st-round pick and another 5th-round pick, you're accumulating those assets. That's definitely what a first-year rebuild team should be doing, right?
Yeah, they are. They're walking the line of trying to be competitive while also rebuilding. If you're going to do that successfully, like you can be 50-50 until the trade deadline, until this time of year, you have to lean one way or the other. They sold 50% of what has been their most effective D pair throughout the season and got a 1st-round pick. That tells me they are committed to the rebuild.
And then they weren't done. Then they did business with the Buffalo Sabres, picking up defenseman Eric Johnson, not Johansson, Johnson, and the former 1st overall pick in 2006. I could not believe, honestly, Bill, I didn't know he was still in the league. I mean, my oldest daughter was born in 2006, and she's going on 19. So I can do the math there pretty easily. But he's here. He's already told people he can't move as well as he used to. He's a shadow of his former self. Is this a move more for necessity because of the issues with our defense right now? Or, I mean, this got right. Is there any other reason around this trade?
Yeah, they believe in big defensemen, especially in the playoffs. They think you have to be a big defenseman, or at least have a few to have success in the postseason. Also, they're out of guys. Like, they got him and only dressed 5 on Saturday. Like, they're running short of dudes. Ronnie Attard and Adam Ginning, they don't really believe in them. That's why Emil Andre made this team out of camp and those two didn't. They're not maybe in the future plans. I think especially Ginning maybe played himself into a little bit. I would like to see both of them get more of a look over the last month or so of the season, but they need guys, and they don't want to really give up any future assets, or any really big assets. So what they did is they went and got themselves an Eric Johnson. Hopefully we don't need him, but they already have. So it was mostly out of necessity, I would say.
And then the Flyers were not done because they're going to continue to move. They made a move with the Nashville Predators, Bill. And this one kind of caught me by surprise. I ain't going to lie. Not necessarily who we got back, but who we gave up. It's kind of a sad day. I was actually kind of upset to hear this. Wade Allison was sent to Nashville for Denis Gurianov. Very good, decent 4th-line guy. Left, he's a forward. I mean, we can use him here. He's maybe help us out with the goal scoring. But Wade Allison, the bottom line with this guy is he just couldn't stay healthy, Bill. He played with his hair on fire, but he just couldn't stay healthy. And I think that's what doomed him here.
Yeah, I think that's really where it started. I mean, we all remember the media asked John Tortorella about Wade Allison, and he repeated several times, can't stay healthy, always injured. Like that wears on a coach. I know you don't want to hold that against the guy, but you need him available, and he wasn't available. It seems like he really just fell out of favor, and Danny Briere said, think he just needed a change of scenery to restart his career. I liked Allison. I don't think he handled being demoted to the Phantoms after camp all that well. He was playing on their 4th line. He didn't really score much at all. And now they bring in someone it sounds like they kind of had their eye on, at least as a ancillary piece, maybe the way they had their eye on a Ryan Poehling or something. 26 years old, but they referenced he had a good playoff a few years ago for Dallas. So I think it was just maybe a change of scenery situation. Here's some guy we don't want for some guy you don't want. We can make this work.
And then the last thing I want to talk about, 2 other Flyer prospects are joining the fray. Both Denver Berkey and Oliver Bonk signing their ECLs, Bill. Both of them are currently with the London Knights of the Ontario Hockey League. It seems like every Flyer prospect somehow plays for the London Knights of the Ontario Hockey League, but I'm sure they're going to. I haven't been really up on the CHL lately. I'm sure I know they're a player for the Memorial Cup this year. Is there any chance, Bill, that we see orange and black for Denver Berkey and Oliver Bonk this year?
I asked Charlie about Denver Berkey, and he just keeps he keeps reiterating that he looks like he's about 12 years old. He is going to get killed if he steps on NHL ice. He is a string bean. He's not big. He plays with a ton of energy. He's going to be a fun player. Ton of shorthanded goals for the London Knights this year. But it's going to be a year or two at least before we see Barkey. He's got to kind of grow into that man body we hear about. I think Oliver Bonk will get a look in NHL camp in the summer, but I don't think we're going to see either in the near future.
Yeah, I think you're right, and it's unfortunate because these are obviously not unfortunate. I mean, this is just kind of what it's like, kind of moving forward when you're first year of a rebuild. Then the last player I want to talk about, and we'll get into the winners and losers, and I'll let you go, Bill. Matthew Michkov, the KHL season with Sochi ended. Sochi's a god-awful hockey club, just a god-awful organization. I actually watched a ton of KHL hockey, Bill, and I watched a ton of Sochi hockey. Let me tell you what, Bill, there ain't nothing like watching hockey in Russia at 9 a.m. It does the soul good. It's a weird thing going on out there. They got like 80s disco music and ABBA and all that. It's just, anyway. Michkov is what I think he's been advertised to be, and it's really a point now where it's just a waiting game on getting him here. Bill, timeline. One, do you think he's actually ever going to come here? And two, when do you think that's going to be?
I do. I am crossing my fingers and holding out hope the Flyers do something we don't, and they can get him here sooner. But I think it's going to be 2026. That's all signs point to he's going to play out his contract. Now, listen, he's on loan to Sochi. There's a reason he's on a horrible team, and it's because he's on loan there. Maybe everyone involved just says, listen, you don't want him. He doesn't want to be here. Just let him go, and it happens. We'll see. I doubt that, though. I'm not getting my hopes up. That's the thing. It would be awesome, but I think it's going to be the full 3 seasons, so 2 more, you know?
Yeah, I think you might be right. And Bill, your personal grade for the Flyers at the trade deadline, were you surprised? What were your surprises that did happen or didn't happen? Are you surprised that certain players are still here? Or are you surprised that certain players aren't here?
I kind of thought this is the way it was going to go. There was a possibility Scott Lawton was traded, but I think if that happens, it's going to be in the offseason. I didn't really think they were going to move on from Morgan Frost. I mean, if nothing else, he's cost effective. They need guys who play his position, and he is not expensive. While he's under team control, why trade him away unless you get a similar asset? It's not like you're getting a first-round pick for Morgan Frost or anything like that, like an A-tier prospect or something. That wasn't happening, so what's the point? It's basically what I expected. I'm going to give him a good solid B. I would have liked to see maybe a couple other moves, maybe getting that broker market a little bit more than they did. But I think it was a good solid B, B plus for Danny in his first trade deadline.
Yeah, I'll give you that as well. I had really low expectations of what they were going to do. I know everyone was like, there was 2 sides of the coin, buy and sell. I thought the Flyers addressed the 3-sided coin. Thought they bought, they sold, and they tweaked. Do exactly what you do when you're a team in a first-year rebuild that finds themselves in a playoff push. So I'm going to give him a solid B as well. I thought it was a great first trade deadline for Danny B, especially, Bill, coming out of last year's trade deadline. I mean, nothing could be. I mean, it's not like it could have gotten worse than that, but you know, you got to admit it kind of washed that taste of out of our mouths, right?
Danny didn't fall asleep. He knew how to work the phone.
Yes, he did. He didn't miss a call for JVR. Yeah, that's a good point. All right, now let's talk some winners and losers around the NHL. Talk about my number 1 winner, Bill. The Vegas Golden Knights pushing all their chips into their Sin City table. Noah Hanifin, Anthony Matha, and then Thomas Hertl are going to be joining out there. They're serious, Bill. Vegas Golden Knights are serious about winning a cup again, aren't they?
Yeah, they're unbelievable. They have a mantra to go get great players and figure it out later. And that's a lot of fun. I don't know how they keep doing it. I don't know. At a certain point, like, you're out of roster spots. Like, you can only have so many contracts, but they figure it out. They make it work. And I'm envious of the Vegas Golden Knights.
I am too. And then my other big winner on trade deadline day are the Carolina Hurricanes and Jake Gunsel coming over from Pittsburgh. Bill, does that does that upset the balance of power to the Carolina Hurricane way? I mean, they're a powerhouse to begin with. They gave up. It seemed like they gave up a lot. They really didn't. If you think about it, it's really depth pieces and pieces for the biggest loser of the trade deadline, which I'll get to in a second. But does Gensel really tip the scale that much in the favor of the Carolina Hurricanes?
I think at least in the Metropolitan Division it could. They get him. They also get Evgeny Kuznetsov. I think that's a couple of pretty big ads for a team that, especially Gensel, they go against their long-standing philosophy of no rentals. We don't do this. We get guys with term. We make investments in the long term. It's never about this year. But you look at the East, Florida's awesome. That's it. I would say there's no truly great team there's no like the Vegas Golden Knights or Colorado from a couple of years ago where you just look at them and go, they're winning. I don't know what to tell you. They're winning. That's like the East is wide open. Carolina's window has been open for a while and they just haven't been able to get over the hump. They went for it and I appreciate that. I like when teams say we're going to try to win.
Yeah, me too. And then brings me to my biggest loser of the trade deadline. And it's a beautiful thing to say this. The Pittsburgh Penguins, with the move of Gensel, are the Penguins running up the white flag, Bill? Is it over? Is it officially time now to strip it down and send the Penguins back to the bottom of the Metropolitan and the Eastern Conference?
Yeah, I think that's on the horizon. Now, we'll see how they handle the offseason. If they can figure out a way to get out from under some of the contracts and kind of retool around Crosby, maybe not because he's still good. But you watch Evgeny Malkin out there, and he is a shell of himself. The times I've watched him this year, I go, I hope he's not trying because if he is, he's just cooked. And Chris Letang, with the health issues he's had in his life, it's like, how much does he even have left in the tank? And Erik Karlsson, we all know he's allergic to defense, but if he's not going to be that electric player, what is he really? Three of their top four guys have just been substandard, to say the least. If they can figure out a way to move on from maybe two of them, I guess they could retool, but it's going to be tough. Who's going to spend that money on guys who are cooked?
No, you're absolutely right. And they might have hold on. And obviously holding on to those assets too long works, in the boomerang effect, because now you're not going to be able to get anything for them. And if you do, it's pennies on a dollar, Bill. But isn't it a beautiful thing to talk about? The Pittsburgh Penguins, Bill, might be done and that we might be ahead of them now for at least the next few years.
I'm already, as soon as the draft lottery odds are released, I'm going to be betting the Penguins to win the lottery.
Yeah,
so
that's a good point.
But for now, for this season,
I forgot.
For this season, it's a ton of fun.
Yeah, Celebrini's going to look good wearing Penguins yellow and black. Yeah, you're right. That's a good point, Bill. All right, Bill. My final point tonight, and I'll let you go. We do have a playoff push going on here in town, but Bill, right now it's getting a little hairy. The New York Islanders are, under the tutelage of Patrick Waugh, have really kind of pulled themselves together, and they're in a position tonight, Bill. If they win, they will pull into a third or a tie with the Flyers for that third place spot in the Metro at 74 points. One of the points I brought up on my post game the other night was not only was the Lightning game important for me to see them compete against a team like the Lightning, but it was a huge 4-point potential flip in the standings, man. You had the Islanders who were going to play two more times before the Flyers even got back out on the ice on Tuesday. The Flyers could find themselves, Bill, kind of in a real sticky position come tomorrow morning, depending on what happens out there in LA.
Yeah, the Islanders have been great lately, and the Flyers in those 4-point games. The Lightning game wasn't a division game, but it basically served as the same, given the way the standings are breaking down. And the Flyers, although they've been good against a lot of good teams this year, whether it's the Devils, the last few head-to-heads with the Penguins, and now the Lightning, in these 4-point games, they haven't been great. So they're going to need to bounce back real fast. And that April 1st matchup with the Islanders, that could be, okay, winner gets in.
Yeah, that's looming large. But Bill, what's looming even larger on the schedule, I'm sure you have, and I'm sure you've talked about it, but over the next 10 days or so, this is the Flyers schedule. It's the Sharks on Tuesday. Then it's the Maple Leafs, Bruins, Maple Leafs, Hurricanes, Bruins, Panthers, Rangers. Bill, who the hell made up this schedule, man?
Yeah, after the Sharks game, I think they have 7 straight against playoff teams.
It's brutal.
It's absolutely brutal. And they're going to need to play their absolute best hockey, and it's coming at the worst possible time with this injury bug going around.
Yes.
And I'm hoping, if anything, that this Tortorella situation can kind of galvanize the club, and they can use it as that us against the world fuel that they've been using, since camp when they were picked to be a lottery team.
Yeah, and Shaw gets an opportunity to kind of show what he can get. I guess it would be Shaw, right? Is he going to take over the head coaching duties over the next 2 games? Have you heard that?
That seems to be the case, at least for the first game.
All right. Well, it's an opportunity for him to show his wares as well. But then I don't want him to leave either, so I need him to maybe just kind of tamp that down a little bit, and maybe, I don't know. I'm not saying lose, but don't look so good winning. Whatever. Bill, before I let you go and before I cut you free, one final question in reference to I forgot what I was going to ask you. Well, I'll remember it later on. Bill, listen, tell the folks out there where they can find you on I know it's on PHL. You guys are growing quick over there. That thing is on fire, that whole network. Tell the folks where they can find you over there.
Yeah, you can find our show 5 days a week, PHLY Sports on YouTube. We're at PHLY Flyers on Twitter. And I'm at Bill Adele, PHLY as well.
All right, Bill, come back, talk to me when the playoffs start.
Absolutely.
All right, Bill Matz, everybody. Thanks a lot, Bill, for joining me.
Take it.
All right, the Bill Matz. Listen, great stuff. What the hell was I going to ask him? I don't remember. I was going to ask him one last question. It's going to come to me as I'm talking about the Eagles, but that was Bill Matz, and I hope you enjoyed that. That segment here on the show was brought to you by the fine folks over at Dolan's, 24 East Sellers Ave, Ridley Park, Pennsylvania, for Quizzo music, great times, memorabilia giveaways. Dolan's. It's not in Delco, or no, I'm sorry, it's in Delco, not Delaware. That's their new slogan. Well, that's the new slogan I'm giving them. But I am Bill Matz. Yeah. So listen, I'm not going to ever agree. I've been there, man. I've listened to some tirades from coaches, and I'm just like, dude, what the? I mean, come on, man. Do we have to bring my mother in this? I'm being facetious, of course, but I have heard some tirades, and I am not upset at all about John Tortorella being suspended. Absolutely not. He lost his mind on the sidelines or on the bench, regardless of whether or not he was justified in losing said mind. He lost his mind and he broke the rules, and he was thrown out of the game for that. And under the supplementary discipline rule, not an interpretation, but a rule, he was suspended 2 games. Simple as that. Don't cry over the spilled milk there, Flyer fans, and all you anti-official people. Get on with your lives and let's move forward. So I'm not going to sit here and try to, but what I said to Bill was correct. I don't know what led up to that and all that. I'm not going to speculate. There were some iffy calls, but again, unless you're ice level, unless you're down there, unless you're in the moment, in that speed, in that thing, what is this? This is a game, as I mentioned, is coached, played, managed by alpha type personalities and alpha males. What do you think is going to happen when you put them all together and you put a high tempo, high stress thing where millions of dollars are at stake and people's careers and livelihoods are at stake? What do you think is going to happen, man? Stuff like this. It's part of the game. It does not forgive John Tortorella for losing his mind, and there should be no justification in supporting him for that. Support him for getting thrown. Support the NHL for kind of holding the rule the way it needs to be held. It is what it is. He broke the rule, and he got thrown out and suspended. Plain and simple. And we had to move on with our lives. And that's what I'm doing. Freaking moving on with my life, man. All right, so that was Flyers Talk with Bill Matz. Now we're going to kind of segue our way over to the Eagles. Let me get into some of these comments. And Star Wars 99 says, let's go Eagles. They got Barkley. And that is a perfect segue, Mr. Star Wars 99. Where you been lately, man? I haven't seen you in a while. Saquon Barkley on his way to Philadelphia to be an Eagle. Howie Roseman going against the Howie Roseman script a little bit, maybe. Is everybody kind of buying that? I've never seen Howie do this. He never went after a high-priced running back and then offered him a pretty big contract. Saquon signed a 3-year deal today with the Eagles for $37.75 million. So if you do the quick fuzzy, what is that about? How much is that? 12 million a year, 12 and change, 13 mil a year. Are the Flyers? I guess the Eagles are banking on Saquon to not be hurt anymore. They're banking on the fact that he's going to play at the Link versus at MetLife. Well, I'm still have to play there once a year, but are they banking on the fact that he's going to stay healthy? Because if healthy, Saquon is a difference maker. But was that the spot on this team where the Eagles needed to address the main issue. Now, they made a few other moves, and we'll get into those. But was that the spot that you needed to throw the big moolah at? You got Fletcher Cox retiring over the weekend. You got Jason Kelsey, of course. Are we done talking about that, by the way? Good God, man. Let the guy go. He retired. But is the spot of Saquon Barkley, is that where you wanted to go? Doesn't that violate how this team is constructed? How many footballs are going to be passed around on the offense? Is Saquon going to get his 30 or 40 carries a game? I don't know, man, because DeAndre Swift sure as hell didn't. By the way, DeAndre Swift, now a Chicago Bear. He didn't get his 35 to 40 carries a game or 25 to 30 carries a game. Is Saquon Barkley all of a sudden? Is there a change in the offensive philosophy under Kellen Moore? I mean, I'm asking these honest questions because on paper, this looks like a great move. But in reality, is this what, I mean, based on what we saw last year, the running back, it's by committee, and two, they got away from the running game very quickly. Jeff Lurie doesn't like to run the football. What are we doing throwing a gazillion, $13 million a year to a running back who may or may not touch the ball 15 times a game? So on paper, it's a good move. On paper, he's a difference maker. On paper, he's an all-pro, if healthy and used correctly. And are all those things going to happen here for the Eagles? Maybe they will, maybe they won't. But that was the first move of the day, and that got everybody kind of going. But the Eagles, they weren't done. They would be making a couple other moves. Let's get into some of those moves right now. They also went out and they acquired Bryce Huff from the New York Jets, signed him as a free agent, an edge rusher, $51 million for 3 years. So obviously that's going to signal the end of one of them. Sweat or Reddick is probably on their way out of here. That's probably just a matter of days as they're working on a trade. Don't think there's enough money or room on this football team for three of them. So is that an upgrade? And I like that move. I actually like him. I love the New York Jet defense. I think he brings an element of speed, an element of tenacity to that group. He had 10 sacks last year, was the first time in his career, I believe. And I do think that I think it's a good move for the Eagles as they try to rebuild that defense. But I would have liked to have seen more on the defensive side of the ball. We'll get into another player here in a second. Brad says, hey, what's up? Big Philadelphia Eagles news. Saquon signed a 3-year contract. Yeah, Brad, he did. And again, as I said, will that be a good move? I mean, on paper it is, but is it going to be used the right way by the Philadelphia Eagles? And we'll wait to see on that one. Brad says, I believe the Phillies can go all the way. Yeah, we'll get to the Phillies in a second. Hold that thought. And then the Flyers have a long stretch to go until the playoffs start. Yeah, and we kind of talked a little bit about that with Bill Matz, Brad. I know this has been up here for a while. I kind of was focused on Bill, so I apologize for not getting to these sooner. And Daniel says, yo, Jazz Fusion says, Torts rightfully suspended for being plastered behind the bench. I put that up there. That's not right either, man. Come on, let's get classy around here. But no, so let's move on now to the other moves that the Eagles made today. Why do I keep losing it when I minimize it? There it is. They also went out and signed edge rusher. I guess he's an edge rusher, kind of a pseudo, maybe will linebacker type. Zach Bond. He was also, I believe, with the was he with the Jets last year? I'm trying to look at where he was with. Yeah, I think he was with the Jets. I'm not really sure. Oh, sorry, he was with the Saints. So he comes in last season, 16 solo tackles, 10 assists. No forced fumbles, and he had 2 sacks. Is he a depth piece? Is he something that the Eagles run rotations? I'm not really familiar with this guy. He is classified as an edge rusher, but it is a position of need. But once again, does that signal the end of one, if not even both, of Josh Sweat and Hassan Reddick? Is there something big brewing here in Philadelphia Eagle land as the Eagles are, I guess, maybe cleaning house as they get ready for this stretch run? A very interesting move here with him. You never have too many edge rushers, I agree. But where are we looking at here when it comes to this position and the other two who want to get paid as well? Because guess what? The Eagles went ahead and signed yet another edge rusher, Julian Okawara from the Detroit Lions. 4 tackles this year, 2 sacks as well. Again, what is this saying about Josh Reddick and Hassan Reddick? That's my theme of today. Is not necessarily the players that the Eagles have gotten, but what does it say about 2 of the players that we already have here? Now, one of them is already, obviously, somebody has discussed a trade with him, or somebody has discussed the need to be traded. Where does that land him? Where does that land Josh Sweat? I mean, Contract years are coming up for both of them. Paydays are coming up for both of them. Are both of them now out of here? Is how we going to like roll the table this year? Are we going to get 3 first-round draft picks this year? I mean, if that's the case, let's do it. But what does that say about the future of Hassan Reddick and Josh Sweat? And, of course, the other big news was Brandon Graham re-signed a 1-year contract. I think it was yesterday, the same day that Fletch retired. Yesterday or today. So far, those are the moves that the Eagles have made, addressing the defense and the running back position with a hell of a running back in Saquon Barkley. Got some miles, got some injury issues, but if used properly and used enough and stays healthy, I think he's a difference maker and a better option than DeAndre Swift. He is, if used properly. Looking around the NFL, some big names switch places today. Kirk Cousins is now a Falcon. Baker Mayfield returns to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. These are all quarterbacks, by the way. Russell Wilson is not an Eagle. I really thought he was going to be our backup. I really thought that I told you they would be Eagles tour would continue with Russell Wilson, but I was wrong. He is a Steeler. The Minshew Mania is going to run wild in Sin City, folks. Gardner Minshew, 2 years with the Raiders. Jacoby Brissett is going to be with the Patriots. Will probably start as they're trying to find themselves a new quarterback. Mentioned Saquon with the Eagles, Josh Jacobs with the Packers. Derrick Henry is rumored, very heavily rumored, to be heading to Dallas. He's not officially a Cowboy, but he's rumored that way. Tony Pollard is officially a Titan. He's no longer a Cowboy. Austin Ekeler, really good running back. Love this guy. Big-time fantasy football point getter. And well, now we're going to be dealing with him twice a year because he's now a Commander. DeAndre Swift with the Bears. Devin Singletary with the Giants. That was not really a good replacement for Saquon. And Gus Edwards with the Chargers. Antonio Gibson also going to the Patriots. Wide receiver front. T. Higgins was franchised by the Bengals. Michael Pittman re-signed with the Colts. Mike Evans going back to Tampa. Gabe Davis with Jacksonville. Kendrick Bourne re-signed with New England. And Devin Duvernay was signed with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Tight ends, Dalton Schultz is back with Houston. Hunter Henry back with New England. Noah Fant re-signed with Seattle. And Colby Parkinson signed with the Rams. Again, we can kind of go through all this. A very active day, but not as active as I remember of day ones of free agency in the past. I don't even know. Is this actual day one or is this still the illegal tampering period? I don't even know what we call this. Is this day one of free agency? Because are players not allowed to sign today? You can just talk about it. I don't know, but whatever it is, there's people moving addresses this week. Penn State football, Saquon Fly. He's a homegrown guy. He's product of Pennsylvania. It's going to be good to see him, and I think it's a no-brainer for the Eagles. I really do. It's unfortunate. The unfortunate part, the part I have a problem with, guys, is how is he going to be used? The part I have an issue with, if you look at last year, and hell, if you look at the last couple of years, we don't necessarily run the football. What is one of the things we complain all the time about? Running the football? Well, okay. Now Miles Sanders was a good running back. DeAndre Swift was a good running back. Saquon Barkley is a very good running back. But none of them ever actually ran the ball. So we can have anybody you want here. And now we're not paying Saquon. We're not paying him Rashard Penny money, right? We're paying him Saquon Barkley money. Is he going to touch the ball 15 times a game? Because that's not what I'm bringing him here for, right? We don't have an offense that's designed around running the ball. As I mentioned, do we have 3 footballs that we're going to run an offense at the same time? Well, how's A.J. Brown going to get his? Because he don't like being left out of the equation. How's Smith going to get his? He doesn't necessarily say anything. How's Jalen Hurts going to get his? How's Dallas Goedert going to get his? And then how is Saquon going to get his? So it's going to be interesting. We can have all the weapons in the world. And we saw this last year. We had allegedly all the weapons in the world, and they weren't employed properly. And it cost us allegedly the season, right? So again, this looks great. But the philosophy around the football team, has that changed? Because that's really the key here. It's not amassing all these great players. It's how we're going to use them. Really what it boils down to. And can Saquon stay friggin' healthy? I think being tackled on Lincoln Financial Field grass will prolong his career versus being tackled on MetLife Stadium turf. But again, how is all this going to kind of work itself out as we move through this season? We'll have to wait and see. Star Wars 99 says running the damn ball. Well, he didn't say damn ball, but he says run the ball. and Big Al Zafiri. Is that how you say it? Is it Zafiri or is it Zaffirini? Please forgive me if I butcher your name. Does this move signal that running the ball has become more important? That's my question, Al. I want to know. Has the owner changed his philosophy? Hasn't Jeffrey Lurie gone down to the field or called somebody up on the telephone and said, throw the ball more? Hasn't that conversation been had before? Last year we had a running back by committee, right? We didn't really run the ball that much. We didn't run the ball to justify signing Saquon Barkley for $13 million a year, did we? Did we run the ball that much to justify this move? Did we run the ball enough to justify this move above what's happening on the defensive side of the ball? The Eagles have not addressed safety. They addressed the hell out of edge rushers, but they haven't addressed safety and they haven't addressed linebacker. Are they going to convert some of these edge guys back to their natural linebacker position? Are they going to try to do that? They're going to run some sort of funky hybrid where everyone's an edge rusher on the second level of defense other than the corners and the safeties? What are the Eagles going to do here? But could that money have been used more or wiser on the defense than on a player who is a game changer if used correctly? And we don't use them correctly in the past. So again, interesting. Al says it's Zafiri. Zafiri. Thank you, Al. I don't want to butcher your name. Please like and subscribe down there. Crush the bell, as the kids say, and tell all your friends about EOP. So the Eagles are off and running on free agency. The NFL is off and running free agency, and we'll have you covered here on the Edge of Philly Sports because I know I'm already running into the other show. What is it? Party on Broad or Party in Homerville? One of the show that's on right after me. I know they're already started. So if you can head over there and check them out from an Eagles point of view. If you want to hear about Saquon Barkley being the savior of the world and how he's going to come here and touch the ball 75 times, rush for 300 yards a game and score 9 touchdowns, that will probably be Ryan Reese's take, even though he was probably pretty anti-Saquon a couple of days ago. But all of a sudden it's going to change because they're objective Eagles analysts, folks. That's right. Those folks over on Party on Broad, or as I like to call it, Party on Homerville Street, are objective Eagles analysts. You need to go check them out for serious. It's a really good show. Enjoy it. But again, if you want the real dish and the real skinny, this is the guy you need to talk to. But Al says, does signing Barkley mean they are addressing it now with a new coordinator? Again, Al, does it go deeper? We've already seen this thing, Al, right? Again, why do I got to constantly bring this up again? It doesn't. We've seen this in the past. It didn't matter who the hell the coordinators were. It didn't matter who the head coach was. Howie Roseman and Jeff Lurie are running the team. And when I mean running the team, I friggin' mean running the team. They're making all the decisions. So the coordinators and the head coach, and now this year, the head coach is straight up a figurehead, and the coordinators are probably pretty much answering directly to Howie about what to do with the football. That's the big question. Has the philosophy changed? Has the way they're going to go about and do their business going to change? Because having Saquon Barkley is great if you use him correctly. You know, having DeAndre Swift was awesome, but he wasn't used correctly. Having Miles Sanders was really good. Sometimes he was used correctly. But investing all that money on a player that's going to touch the ball 15 times, is that where the money should have went? If that's the philosophy, now you would think it's not. You would think that Howie has enough sense because he's the greatest friggin' general manager ever to come down the pike. You heard it here on this show. I love me some Howie Roseman. If you think he's got a sense that this is a move that's ushering in that change, right? That change in philosophy. I believes it when I sees it because I don't believe it. I don't think there is no philosophy change. I think this is Howie Roseman on, what do they say when you go down 3 times and when you're drowning, you go down once, you come up, and then you go down the second time, and you come up, and then it's that third time you go down and you don't come up. I think Howie's up there on his second time up, and he's struggling to stay above the water. And the day is coming, folks. I can smell it in the air, man. VH Day is coming. Victory from Howie Day it will soon be upon us, and man, I cannot wait. And hopefully with Saquon being here, when we do change it all out, maybe we can build a proper team around Saquon Barkley. We'll see if he's not totally destroyed by then. And he won't be because he won't touch the ball. So is this a placating move from Howie to the fans? Is it? Is that possible? Is it a pandering move? Look at me, guys. I'm trying to address the running back. I brought you in an all-pro. I brought you in a Pennsylvania native. Saquon Barkley's going to save the day. Leave me alone. Or is this usher in a change of philosophy for the Philadelphia Eagles? I guess we'll have to see. Amazing Eagles sign Barkley, sign Bryce Huff, sign Zach Brown. Need to get CJ day one. Again, I'm not. Yeah, okay, let's bring him back. But I don't know. Is there better safeties out there? I know McKinney's now a Packer, right? He signed with the Packers. I get that. Patrick Queen, he's still floating around out there, right? Why don't we move on from him? Bring him here. I would have used the Saquon Barkley money on him. I would have much preferred Patrick Queen than Saquon Barkley. We can probably find 4 Saquon Barkleys, including a couple of draft picks, for a Patrick Queen. Patrick Queen could anchor in the middle of that defense for the next 7-8 years. And we wouldn't have to talk about linebacker anymore. But now we're still talking about linebacker because they really haven't addressed linebacker yet. We still haven't addressed linebacker. Still haven't addressed the secondary. Still haven't addressed the safety position. So, again, a good day one. I'll give Dowey that. On paper, it looks outstanding. On paper, it looks like he addressed some of the needs on this team right now. On paper, it looks a little screwy that he signed Saquon Barkley. But, again, on paper, Saquon is a game changer if used properly. So a positive day, a day that at least will get people to talk about the Eagles and about what's going on with them. So here's the Howie Roseman on day one as we move forward into free agency. And again, as I said, there's a bunch of shows here on the network that are constantly talking Philadelphia Eagles football. Like, I mean, all the time, 7 days a week, all year round. And here's the schedule of all of our shows. Not to include just me. The Football Smack Talk show was on earlier than me. And then, as I mentioned, the Party on Broad show is happening as we speak. Tomorrow, Kelly Greenhour, Birds at the Roundtable, Chalk Talk, get processing with some Sixers post-game. And then we'll be back with Clear the Ice tomorrow night as well. And if you're interested in know what that lineup looks like, this is our Clear the Ice lineup for the week. Me and Pat tomorrow, we're doing a Sharks game. Austin and Al again, on Thursday with the Maple Leafs, and Pat and Mike for the Sharks game. So let's finish up on a positive note here with the Phillies as we will take it out here on this beautiful Monday, March 11th. But before I do, remember that this segment on the program is brought to you in part by Dave Cherry. For all your workman's compensation, motor vehicle, personal injury, or criminal law needs, call Dave Cherry at 610-565-0300 at www.cherryinjurylaw.com. And then let's talk about the boys of summer. 2 weeks, folks. 2 weeks, 28 March 2024 at the bank. Phillies and Braves will kick it off, and we're getting ever so close. The Phillies today, I believe, lost in a yawner. I mean, I fell asleep watching the Yankee game today. Again, that's Clearwater spring training baseball. But listen, it's all the signs are trending in the right way. Make sure you're tuned in to this network because we're coming back at you with the best, the best, in Philadelphia Philly postgame entertainment. The Fightins Final, set for its 3rd year. It'll be back on the 28th of March. We'll start that. But before that, we'll have the 2024 Fightin' Finals preview show, the 2024 season preview show. Looking to do it somewhere around the week right up to the start of the season. We'll give you a date here as we get closer to that. But the Phillies are trending in the right way. Also on this network, we are releasing spotlight player articles on all that. We've been doing it since early February. How do I know that? Because I've been writing them. I mean, I've been writing every single one, like 29 of them. Have I mentioned I've written all these damn articles? I've written all these articles. They're out there on the website. Kyle Schwarber is going to be the latest article that will drop. I was going to drop it today, but then I was like, you know what? There's so much free agency stuff going on. I'll probably let it go a few days. I'll drop it then, but we're getting closer. We've highlighted every single player that I think at least are going to be an impactful member of this team coming up in 2024. We talked ups, downs, good, bad, all that about them and what we think they're going to be like in 2024. Make sure you check out those articles on our website. Also, we're starting to break down the MLB draft for 2024. Released our first 2 articles about that for the number 1 prospect and the number 2 prospect of the draft. So the intentions here is we're going to release all first round projected talent and break down articles on all those players to get you ready for the MLB draft in July as part of the All-Star Week festivities. How do I know we're doing that? Because I'm writing all of them too. That's right. That's all I do. I sit here and I type all day long. Type and get angry. I'm an angry typer, folks. Would you not have guessed that? But that's what we're going to be doing here on the program. And then the NHL draft stuff coming up too. So busy here on this end. But let's talk Phillies. And let's talk, said Kyle Schwarber, because I heard something today, and I've actually heard this. And where was, let me bring this back up. I want to show you guys this. I want to show you this. Big Al Zafiri, right? I'm going to bring this back up because I want to talk about Big Al. Me and Big Al, we do the Fightins final together. He's the owner of EOP, by the way. I was having some fun with him. For those of you who don't know who Al is. But we do the Fightins final together. And one of the big conversations we have, it's more than a conversation. It's kind of an argument that we have, or disagreement. Maybe not an argument, but a disagreement. Is where Kyle Schwarber should bat in the lineup. And you're going to see in this article about Kyle Schwarber that's coming out that statistically he does better leading off. I mean, that's just the way it is. The numbers don't lie. And I know that. And I see that. And I live that. I get it. But there's no one selling me on the fact that this guy belongs leading off a baseball game or for a baseball team. And the argument that old Big Al would give me is you only really lead off once a game. And that's an absolute, complete, true statement. That's it. But when you got a player, and it boils down to me to this, that all he does is hit home runs and walks. That's all he does. And he can't even bat over 200. So all I need to do, and if we're in this age of analytics and numbers and binders and crunching stuff and all that, why not put him in the best position that he can as a home run hitting walk producer? And that would be, to me, somewhere in the middle of the lineup, because you're going to take advantage of all those RBIs. And for anyone to say, and I've heard it not only from Al, but I've heard it from multiple people too. Well, all he does is really lead off once. Hell, I heard it from Kyle Schwarber himself. He said, well, all I only do is really lead off once. So let me ask you this, Kyle, or Phillies fans. Would you rather have Kyle following up the 7, 8, 9 hitters, which would project to be right now, I think, maybe in not so much this order, Bohm, Stott, maybe Bohm, Stott, Rojas. I mean, would you rather have Kyle Schwarber following them in the lineup, or would you rather have him following up, I don't know, somewhere in the ilk of Turner, Marsh, maybe Bohm at 2, and Harper? Would you rather have him following them guys in the lineup, or would you rather have him following up the bottom tier of the lineup? Call me a purist, call me an old head, call me a baseball dinosaur, call me what you want, but I'm not feeling it to have him follow up the bottom of the order. So yes, you only lead the game off once, but you're always behind the 7, 8, 9 hitters. And I don't care what, there's a reason why Rojas is batting 9. There's a reason why Stott's batting 8. And it hasn't changed that much. All right? There's a reason why they're down there in that part of the lineup. And for whatever that reason is. So I am going to put the man who hits towering home runs, 48 of them last year, who gets on base through walks, who moves people along, either through home runs or walks. And that's all he does. But I'm going to put him in a position to maximize that by putting him in the middle of the lineup. And God help Rob Thompson. And God help you out there if I have to go through another year of Kyle Schwarber leading off. I don't think I got it, man. I don't think I got it in me. I really don't know. I really, really don't know. And, I really don't know. I really, really don't know. Al says, I'm on board with moving him this year. Start now. I don't know. Who is that? You talking about Sweat? Talking about Hassan? You talking about Nick Sirianni? Who are you talking about, Al? I moved on from that conversation, so you have to remind me. But yeah, back Kyle Schwarber in the cleanup or the 5th spot. Put Realmuto, Harper, Turner in front of him, and watch the runs come a piling in. So one of the things we didn't do well at all last year was produce runs, right? We knocked the cover off the ball to a tune of about 215, 220 home runs. I get that. But we also batted 214 with runners in scoring position in the postseason. We batted, I think, 240. It ended up working out to like 240 in the regular season with runners in scoring position. We did not do enough to score runs. We left a ton of runners on base. We gotta maximize that. We gotta find ways until they can start hitting more contact, so we can see more contact, which I've seen a lot of this spring. A lot of small ball, a lot of contact hitting, and that's very good. But we also haven't really been facing much major league pitching yet. But until we can kind of work the bugs out of that, maximize all your assets to driving in runs, put Schwarber in that 4 hole, and just keep him there. Because, again, the argument is, well, he doesn't like it. He struggles there. Well, guess what, folks? He struggled as a leadoff hitter, too. The guy didn't bat over 200. I mean, how is he going to bat under 100 at 4? If he does, I want to see it. But if that happens, okay, maybe then we move him out of there. But come on, don't give me the he'll struggle. What was he doing in the leadoff spot? He was struggling there too. It's amazing how we make excuses for a guy who can't bat over 200. You know what Pete Rose would have done with Kyle Schwarber? He would not be in baseball right now. Pete Rose was Schwarber's manager. He wouldn't be in baseball anymore. No, because even Greg Luzinski batted at least 230. At least 230. It's amazing, man. It's amazing all the stuff we do. It's absolutely amazing. Barkley calls out Hater Barber. Whatever, man. The hell with Tiki Barber. The hell with all that stuff, man. That's good. Good of actually, Didn't Barber call out Barkley? Didn't he say something about "you're dead to me" kind of thing? Who cares, man? He's a giant player. Who cares? Who cares? Schwarber out of leadoff. Oh, Al, are you serious? Oh, Al. What the hell, man? You're messing up my narrative, dude. Why are you flip-flopping? Is this Pat Bernard, Al? Is this really Pat Bernard rolling the screen right now? Why are you flip-flopping all of a sudden? For 3 years, you've been dead set against it. Turner, Realmuto, Harper, Castellanos, Schwarber, Marsh, Stott, Merrifield, and Rojas. Turner, Realmuto, Harper. I like this, but I would move. I would make a couple changes. I lead off Turner. I like this lineup. I lead off Turner. I would bat Bohm 2, Harper 3, Schwarber 4, Realmuto 5, Castellanos 6, Marsh 7, Stott 8, and Rojas 9. Are we playing Merrifield in center field? Is that what this is? No, there's Marsh right there. Where's Merrifield at? He's second? No. Where the hell's that's right. We have the Schwarber DH. So you have Merrifield out and left, right? Is that where you have him? Okay. All right. Yeah, that looks good to me. That looks good to me. But yeah, I'm gonna put Bohm. Yeah, I would put Bohm at 2. I would do Turner, Bohm, Harper, Schwarber, Realmuto, Castellanos, Marsh, Stott, and I guess Rojas in center to start. That's what I would do. But yeah, I like that. We got to get him out of that leadoff spot, folks. He doesn't belong there. Pitching wise, Phillies have been coming along. It's been Mick Abel pitched brilliantly today. Griff McGarry was Gary. Sorry, I always want to call him McGarry. Was optioned back down to Lehigh today. Was sent back to the Lehigh Valley, back to the minor league camp. His spring with the Phillies is over. Had a positive spring. His velocity was up. I mean, he was smoking the ball, but he just is having too many command and control issues. He still can't control his pitches, command his pitches. It's becoming kind of frustrating with him as he's got it all, man. He's got it all. He just does not have control or command. And they sent him back down to Lehigh today, so he'll probably start the season. In AAA, and then hopefully maybe he can figure it out. I want to see him figure it out. I'm a big McGarry fan. I think he has potential. Star Wars 99 says Gainwell trash. Yeah, he is trash. And again, that's another question with the Eagles. I guess I'll jump back there, and then we'll jump right back to the Phillies. Who are the rest of the running backs on this team right now? Right? Are we running Gainwell and Boston Scott back? Is that what the group's going to be? I think personally they draft a running back at some point this year and put him in that rotation. But again, are we running a running back by committee? It's a very interesting point. It's a very interesting topic. It's a very interesting conversation that needs to be had. Where are the Eagles now with this? I really don't. Merrifield can play anywhere in the field. Yeah, except for catcher. Can't catch. So we can't use him there. And David Dahl. Don't sleep on David Dahl. I think he makes the team. I think David Dahl is our last bench piece. I think he makes the team, and Jake Cave is mercifully sent away. I didn't say sent down. I said sent away because he's out of minor league options, right? Him and Christian Pache are both out of minor league options. So if they don't make the team, which one of them ain't, or both of them probably won't, there's one spot and 3 players fighting for it. So if Dahl gets it, I believe he does have a minor league option. I think he does. But Cave and Pache do not have minor league options. So if they don't make the major league team, they're free agents. They're gone. So that's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. A lot of decisions have to be made by the Phillies over the next couple of weeks. So, yeah, we're going to see. Cody Clemens can make the team. What team? Reading? He ain't making the team. Come on. Cody Clemens was brought up here because of necessity. We don't need him anymore. Don't forget, our infield was all in flux last year with the Rhys Hoskins thing. It threw off the whole infield. Nah, Cody Clemens, come on. I actually know a friend of his. I know a kid who came up through the system with him when they were in Detroit. This kid ended up having to retire because he messed up his hand in a game at Yankee Stadium. He got hit in the hand with a 104-mile-an-hour fastball, and could not rehab it enough to pass the MLB grip test in order to come back off the IR. So he ended up retiring. And we were talking about Cody. This is last summer. He says Cody's a good kid and a good player, I don't doubt that. I think he'll do well. And I'm not saying get rid of him out of the organization. I just don't think he's not what I want to see on the bench. Right? I don't want to go there this year. I don't want to start the bench off on a bad leg. I'm really beyond the bench problems. We have some players. We have some professional hitters now. Let's hopefully, I said David Dahl is key to this. I want to see him make this team. I would much prefer Dahl coming off the bench as a secondary option to Merrifield. Stubbs is obviously going to have to make the team because he's the backup catcher. And then Sosa is going to have to make the team because he's a spark plug utility infielder. Merrifield's not going to be asked to play the infield too much. I think he might be asked to play some, but his primary role is going to be out in the outfield. So that leaves Dahl, another spot for Dahl. I would like to see that. I really would. But we'll see. 2 weeks to go till the end of spring training. And then, again, those of you that are interested, we have the show called The Fighting's Final here on the network. Make sure you're tuned in. It'll be year 3 coming up. And our preview show will be in very, very soon fashion. But that is going to do me up for the night. I want to appreciate and thank everybody for coming out, spending some time with me on this Monday evening. Thank you again to Bill Matz for joining me on the program. It's always a pleasure to talk to him. I don't agree with the take on John Tortorella and the refs. I do not agree with it. John Tortorella broke the rules. He suffers the consequences. It's pure as simple as that. I don't know what else to tell you. Get over it. Buy a helmet. I don't know what to tell you, but that's how it rolls. But of course, Eagles, big day in free agency across the NFL board. Some players changing addresses. Kirk Cousins is a Falcon. That just sunk in. For some odd reason, that just resonated. Wow. Kirk Cousins is a Falcon. I don't know if really that does anything, but does that move the needle for any of you Falcon fans out there? You're going to go from Ritter to Cousins. I imagine they're going to draft a quarterback anyway, but Kirk Cousins is now a Falcon. So free agency is underway in the NFL. Phillies are about 2 weeks away from spring training or from the regular season, and of course, the Flyers continue their playoff push here in 2023-24. That's going to do it for me. Don't forget, everybody, all the other shows on the Edge of Philly Sports. I already put that up, put it right back up here. Check us out. We're all over the place. Also, I want to thank the sponsors, Sherry's Tickets, Dolan's, Cherry Injury Law. And, I didn't talk about Vince and the boys over at Philly Sports Trips. They got you covered on all things Philly sports trip related. You want to head to Brazil to see the Eagles? You want to head out to London and see the Phillies. You want to head to Fenway on Father's Day weekend to see the Phillies and Red Sox. I think they got a trip to Baltimore, Pittsburgh. They got you covered for everything. Head over to www.phillysportstrips.com. Check out everything that they have to offer. And they will take great, great, great care of you. And Al says, Kirk Cousins is a better businessman than Sammy Sleeves, and both swindle NFL teams. Yeah, they did. But all right, folks, listen, thank you, everybody. It's going to wrap me up. What do they say? That's right. That's the news, and I'm out of here.